here's a story that I'd rather not be telling. I get a new company car every few years, and this time I spent ages thinking about it, and I wound up picking a Honda Civic. Really, great fuel economy, nice motor, fully loaded, everything on it. Picks its feet up. Yeah, nice motor, and eventually, after a lot of them in an hour, I settled on a Honda Civic. Ran it perfectly for 18 months, no issues at all. It's been a really good car, dead reliable, no problems. And then about 2 months ago, I started noticing a bit of a weird fault on it, in that when you're driving a straight line on the motorway, eventually, after an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, there's like a weird resistance that starts to build into the steering wheel, whereby nothing happens when you turn the wheel. So those little micro corrections you're making when you're driving, nothing's happening. It's the steering's not responding at all. Then as you move it a little bit more to try and get something to happen, there's some resistance, so you've got to push harder, and then eventually you overcome that resistance and the car veers about in its lane. The first time it happened, I thought, I'm imagining this is something to do with the lane assist or whatever it is. Turned that off, turned everything off on that, and it's still doing it. But anyway, I got home that night, got up the next day, and it had gone. So I thought, okay, maybe it's just me being tired. I don't know, something weird about it. Next time I drove a long distance, again, I do quite a lot of like motorway miles. A couple of weeks later, same thing happened again. This fault built up, and eventually I'm driving down the motorway making micro corrections, and nothing's happening, and I'm having to. And on a 50 zone with narrow lanes, as there's a lot of that on the M6, which is one of the motorways I use a lot. Really, really dangerous. By the third time I'd done it, I got in touch with Honda at my local Honda garage, and I said, I'll bring it in. Can you have a look? There's something not right. So while I was there in the waiting room, they said, we'll have to take a little bit of time to have a look. Left it with the engineers for an hour and a half. And I just checked on my phone, just thinking, I was trying to describe this fault properly, and I thought, I wonder if anybody else has had the same problems. It turns out, and I'll put a link or two in this, that an awful lot of people worldwide have had exactly the same problem, to the point where there's some court cases going on in America around a fault known as sticky steering in Hondas, a design fault which manifests itself in the exact way that I was experiencing it. That filled me with some sort of confidence that Honda UK are going to be prepared for this, and they're going to say, not a problem, we can deal with this straight away. I took the car home that night. I showed them this fault and I said, that's what it's doing. I took it home that night, a little bit more research, and when I saw people, there'd been potentially serious accidents off the back of this, I thought, I'm just going to take the car to them. I'm not putting my family in it, I'm not putting me in it. I'll take the car to them, I'll just leave it with them, and hopefully then get this resolved. So I did that. We're now 24 days later since I left the car with them, and Honda UK at present are refusing to supply me with a courtesy car in lieu of the fact that I'm not going to drive a car that's dangerous, and it is dangerous. I've asked them repeatedly to do that, and they're just saying, we can't find a fault. When we do, we'll then decide whether or not you get a courtesy car. My argument is, how long is that a reasonable period of time to leave me without a vehicle? The more that I've pushed on this to say, look, if you can't find a fault, you either need to say that the car's safe, which it isn't, or you need to supply me with a courtesy car. I'm at the point now where they're just not even replying to emails. I've kept the garage out of it. The garage is a little family business. I've got no issues with them. The garage have been really helpful, but for me, this is a Honda UK problem. They've known this fault is worldwide. I was hoping that there would be some sort of preparation for them eventually finding faults in this country, which is going to happen. Maybe less so than it would in some other countries like America, where roads are big and straight, high speed. We maybe aren't going to see many faults. I'm up near the Lake District. There's a lot of old folk driving around in Honda Civics that never get on a motorway. But me, I spend a lot of time on motorways, driving in a straight line, and my car's developed the exact fault that's been present around the world. I'm absolutely astonished that Honda think that it's okay just to say, we're looking for the fault, when we find it, we'll decide whether or not you can have a courtesy car. I'm absolutely aghast at that. I've contacted the DVSA and I've raised it with them to say, I believe there's a serious design flaw with these cars, so they're now also on the case and waiting for Honda to make a decision on whether or not this car's got a fault. But just from a personal point of view, luckily the company I work for, we've got a couple of cars that I can occasionally borrow if I've got to travel around. But other than that, if this was my own personal car, and I know, there'll be people watching who may be thinking, oh, Honda's good reliability, etc. Just bear in mind that as far as this serious global fault that's caused recalls all over the world, as far as that goes, if that happens in this country, there is nothing in place at all to support you with getting you about. So if this is your one mode of transport, you'll be left with absolutely nothing. There's the sign on the back says I quite like my Saabs, and I've got an old Saab 900. I'm running about in that at the minute, and the thought, it's a 35-year-old car. The thought of me going to a Saab dealership years ago and going, I've got a really dangerous fault with my car, the level of service I'd have got compared with what Honda UK are prepared to offer, it's just chalk and cheese. And I think the customer service departments, I'm with the escalations team, they don't even reply to emails anymore. They've got no interest at all. They've not made a single effort to contact me in any way, shape or form over the last 3 and a bit weeks to tell me where they're up to in terms of testing this car. I'm contacting them every couple of days to say what's happening, and there's absolutely radio silence apart from, we appreciate your patience, we'll let you know when we've resolved whether or not there's a fault. So just a word of warning really, if you're thinking of buying a Honda Civic, I think it affects HRV models as well. You'd have to have a look online, do some Google research, same as I did, but it affects quite a few of their cars, or it has done globally. Just bear in mind, if your car happens to be affected by this, Honda right now in the United Kingdom will make no effort whatsoever to support you in being able to get about your business. Thanks for watching. I'll probably do another one at some point if this is ever resolved in any way.